All right, let's get right into it. Today we're diving into a really powerful, kind of radical new way to think about success and failure, and what it actually takes to unlock our potential. It's a blueprint that's going to challenge pretty much everything we've been taught about talent.
So let's just start with a huge question, one I'm sure you've thought about. Why does it seem like so much talent, so much incredible potential just fizzles out? I mean, think about it. We all know brilliant people who just never seem to get their break. What is really going on there?
Well, the answer this framework gives us is, honestly, it's a game changer. The idea is that potential isn't really about some innate talent you're born with. No, it's about the conditions you're in, the environment, the system. And that single idea right there is the key to everything we're going to talk about.
Okay, so to really get this new model, we first have to completely tear down an old one. Let's call it the talent myth. You know the one. It's that belief we all have that raw, natural ability is the only thing that really, truly matters.
You see, we're totally conditioned to see failure as a personal flaw. If someone doesn't make it, we just figure, well, they didn't have what it takes. But what if that's just wrong? What if the real culprits are the systems themselves, the platforms, the institutions that are designed to limit who gets seen and who gets a shot?
So let's give a name to the bad guy in this story: centralized gatekeepers. These are the algorithms, the big platforms, the corporate structures, basically any intermediary that holds all the keys. They're the ones deciding who gets a voice and who stays silent.
And now, let's meet the hero: decentralized systems. Think of frameworks like Autonomi, where you just remove those gatekeepers. It creates this wide-open environment where potential isn't filtered through some central authority. It just emerges, naturally, on its own. Okay, so if we're saying that potential is all about conditions, the next obvious question is, what are the right conditions? What does it actually take to build an environment where people and ideas can really, truly flourish?
This framework basically boils it down to two absolute pillars for growth. The first one is something called persistent knowledge. And the second one, which might sound a little weird at first, is about embracing discomfort.
The idea of persistent knowledge is so critical. Think about it. You can't have real progress if you're constantly losing what you've learned. By using permanent, censorship-resistant storage, these new systems create a collective memory that can't be wiped clean. Every single lesson stays learned, which means progress never has to reset back to zero.
And this quote just nails the mindset shift we have to make. Moving to these new systems means letting go of the familiar, comfortable things, like relying on a central server or having to ask for permission. And yeah, it feels uncomfortable at first, for sure. But that discomfort, that's the price of admission for building something that's actually resilient, something that lasts.
Okay, so now let's pop the hood and look at the engine. How do these open systems actually work? What are the nuts and bolts that let them create these amazing conditions for growth?
I love this slide because it shows this incredible contrast. On one side, you have the old school systems built on ego. Ranks, blue check marks, subjective opinions from some authority figure. All that stuff just creates weird incentives and slows everything down. But on the other side, you have a protocol-based system. It doesn't judge you. It just works. By taking the ego out of the equation, the whole system can grow and scale so much more effectively.
Think for a second about how we normally treat failure. In most companies, in most of our social circles, making a mistake feels like a dead end, right? It's something you're supposed to hide, or delete, or just pretend never happened. And right here, this is the massive, game-changing shift. The old way literally erases history to hide failure. But this new way, with systems like Autonomi, it stores history because of the failures. The lessons from those mistakes are preserved forever. They become part of the system's DNA.
So here's the absolute crucial point. In a system with persistent knowledge, failure gets completely transformed. It stops being a mark of shame and becomes what it always should have been: valuable data. It's reference material that the entire network can learn from, making sure we don't all keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
So all of this, it's not just a technological shift. It leads to a whole new mindset, a completely different psychology of what it means to create, to contribute, and to succeed. We often think resilience is just about gritting your teeth and pushing through no matter what. But this model offers a much smarter definition. Real resilience comes from the design of the system itself. When you get rid of single points of failure, when you don't rely on one central authority, the system doesn't just survive stress, it actually learns from it. It adapts without falling apart.
This slide really gets to the heart of it. Centralized systems are all about scarcity. They hand out a limited number of opportunities. But decentralized systems, they do something way more powerful. They eliminate the artificial scarcity of opportunity. Suddenly, the only real barrier left is your own will to try something.
And that right there leads to such a profound shift inside our heads. I mean, think how much of our lives we spend seeking validation, right? Looking for someone to tell us our idea is good enough. This model says that's all wrong. Potential doesn't need a stamp of approval. It just needs space. Space to exist, to experiment, and yeah, even space to fail. Okay, so we've talked about the talent myth, we've looked at the conditions for growth, and the new mindset this all creates. Let's bring it all home with the single biggest takeaway from all of this.
This is really the core thesis of this whole explainer. If you feel like you're struggling to reach your potential, the problem might not be your motivation. It might not be your talent. It's probably the infrastructure you're forced to operate in. And the solution isn't to just try harder. The solution is to build and to be a part of better systems.
And this quote is the perfect way to sum it all up. We have to stop thinking of potential as this rare gift that's handed down to a lucky few by some gatekeeper. Potential is the natural state of things. It's what bubbles to the surface all on its own, the moment we build systems that finally stop getting in its way.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Just really think about it. Imagine a world where you didn't have to pitch your idea or get buy-in or wait for someone to give you the green light. What could all of us actually build if we no longer had to ask for permission?